Hello, all, and welcome to the Triple H podcast. Happy Hour Hoops, your one stop shop for enjoying a cold beverage and listening to our ice cold basketball takes. Today, we have a loaded show, a lot of NBA talk, little Steph Curry. We got Joker, Nikola Jokic, and the Morris twins beefing with Jokic's brothers on Twitter because of something that happened last night that we will get into. We have some updates on LeBron James. Me and Jake are going to be acting as a bit of homers tonight, talking about our Boston Celtics and Cleveland Cavaliers. And then at the end of the show, we will bring on our guy Stevie, or some guy named Steve, as you will find him on Twitter, and talk about college basketball starting tonight. Going to be a great show, so let's get right into it. Jake, how we doing, man? Ready to talk some hoops?
Oh yeah, let's get it locked. That was A++, Dunny. I give you an Oscar for that, or Emmy. We get a sports Emmy, right? Web Emmy, Webbies, whatever. That was great. Yeah, let's get right into it, man. Because yesterday we were talking. We're like, man, it really I feel like it hasn't been that eventful of a week. Like we're kind of in the same holding pattern. We got some LeBron updates. That's been like the biggest thing. Some more Ben Simmons drama. And that was like the most. But that's been like par for the course. That's been everything. And then last night, the NBA decided, like, nah, bro, like we're gonna go crazy.
Let's
of course, past my bedtime, past your bedtime, I'm sure for sure. Like I was so disappointed. Not disappointed. It was a great NBA night last night with a couple of the games that happened. But I was like, man, like if only I could just stay up a little later and enjoy these things live. But so let's start off in the world of Steph Curry. The Warriors, they're making us look great, man. They really are making us look fantastic this year. We were so high on them to start the year, and they've been letting it go. And Steph put up 50 last night, 50 points. 50. in an incredible matchup. I think he had 7 rebounds and 10 assists as well. And they took him out right at the 50th point. And I want to share this with you because the Hawks announcer, he took some exception to hearing this, to knowing that Steph was about to come out after he scored his 50th point. So we're going to roll that quick for everybody.
I mean, okay, he's got 50. Is it really that big a deal? I mean, you've won championships, you've been an MVP, you're going to the Hall of Fame. What's the big deal about getting 48 or 50? I don't get that.
You know, they wanted that and they make a quick foul to get him out of the game. Hey, being a player, I can see it.
I see it. But you're up by...
yes, you were up by 20. 22. You were up by 20 before that shot. I mean, it makes no difference.
Wow. Talk about hating on greatness right there.
What's your first thoughts seeing that play out live? Donnie had not seen that video beforehand, no prep.
Yeah, I hadn't.
That was the Hawks announcer reaction to Steph getting his 50 piece and leaving. So
my first reaction is all the broadcasting professors and mentors from my journalism schooling days would be furious with him because his bias was for sure seeping through.
Oh my God.
For sure showing his loyalty to Atlanta and the Hawks. Yeah, that's strange, dude. You don't usually hear that, especially because Steph is such, a fan favorite, and just anyone who covers the NBA loves to just drool over Steph Curry and hype him up as much as they can whenever they can. Yeah, that's strange, dude. That is a very weird thing to say. Like you could even hear, like, it wasn't even just what they were saying. Like in their voices, they were like almost like disappointed. Like that should be a broadcaster's dream. If someone drops 50 of the game,
that's what I was thinking, bro. I was like, what? Growing up, how many people? There's 30 TV NBA announcing jobs. You grow up, that's all you think about. Like everybody, I'm sure both of us have thought about that at some point. That's why we're doing this. There's so many people growing up would love to announce games. It's the best seat in the house, all that stuff. And you're gonna be mad about someone putting up 50 right in front of you. Like, how often do you see 50 points? I was like, 50 is great. He's just mad because I think Steph was like, I'm taking this Trae Young thing personally tonight. He was the MJ meme epitomized, and just wanted to show him up because they were going shot for shot at the beginning of that game. Trae was coming in, he was taking some deep threes. They were the Hawks were up early, and then the Warriors took over in the second half.
So did you to that point? Did you see what Candace Parker said before last night's game? She literally
called her shot.
Yeah. And she said pretty much exactly what you said. It was that, Steph going up against his prodigy in this game. And maybe she didn't use exactly that word. That's not verbatim, but something along those lines. And she said, Steph's going to have 50 tonight. And she, that's just a hooper knowing the game right there. Shout out Candace Parker, really knowing her stuff there and hitting the nail on the head. I mean, it's one thing to say Steph's going to go off. How many people say that any given night the Warriors play, and then here she is calling exactly a 50 piece and doing it because he's showing up Trae Young, and that's kind of how the game went.
It is indeed, and we're still taking a victory lap here for the Warriors, now 9-1 atop the league.
Crazy
flamethrower, and Steph hasn't even played that great. I mean, he played foot 50 last night, but he's been inconsistent to start too.
Mm-hmm.
They have the best defense in the league right now too, which is kind of berserk because they don't even really have a center. They're playing like Looney and Draymond.
That's what I was going to say. They're still very short-handed, and they're doing what they're doing.
They have played an easy schedule so far, that is to note. But they do play the Chicago Bulls this week, who got a nice win over the Brooklyn Nets last night.
That's the game I was able to watch last night.
Yeah.
Before bedtime.
I was watching that one, and the Bulls just took over. But we're not getting into the Bulls game. The Bulls had a nice win over the Nets last night. Some issues still showing up early for the Nets, but Harden's getting back into shape. We'll worry about them later on. Another game in the late window. It was a big late window night last night, so we're catching up on all this. And last night, little did we know that our resident friend, Meerkat, friend of the show, friend of the program, his favorite player, his favorite team, the Denver Nuggets, Nikola Jokic, a bit mostly unassuming Jokic, you would think, right? Like we know, like he hasn't been ever really known as like a tough guy in the league, I wouldn't say. And last night, I mean, I don't know, I can't preface it anymore. If you haven't seen it, we're still going to run it here.
Yeah. I'm sure everyone has, but
everybody's definitely seen it.
Time.
Let's get here.
But yeah, and while you're bringing it up, like I don't think Jokic is, tries to be the tough guy ever really, but he for sure over the last few years is someone who gets ticked off like that. Like I feel like he's a guy who has a short temper almost. Like he doesn't usually start stuff, but if something pisses him off, he retaliates like we just saw there.
So for your listeners, if you haven't seen the video, go look it up on the Happy Hour Hoops Twitter. We have it posted there. And anywhere on Twitter, just search Nikola Jokic taking out Markieff Morris. This was the next thing here. Then we have this is a breakdown of the night here. Then there's a picture of Nuggets security keeping out Heat players from coming to the locker room. Denver star Nikola Jokic set off a melee. The action resulted in an ejection for the MVP, and Heat haters gathered in the hall to confront the Nuggets. So the Heat pulling out a Clipper or a Rockets playbook from last year, Chris Paul, right? And then now this is evidently this is the Jokic brothers. It was confirmed this morning, right?
Yeah.
Coming so after
I think everyone thought it was like some burner, just like fake account. I remember us in our Happy Hour Hoops group chat, we're talking and we're like, that's just a funny account to make. And then turns out it's just I think they probably just discovered what Twitter was this morning and made an account just called the Jokic brothers. But yeah, and they just wanted all the smoke with Marcus and Markieff.
Look at Marcus Moore's comment down there. The first thing that pops up. You got the right ones, believe. Like this all in. I mean, it's 10:01 a.m. Eastern. Like this was all happening overnight. Then this is where we finish up. Markieff Morris kind of taking the high road here. With his tweets, and I love to see the hate. No doubt, I took a hard foul. which I always do, but I never hit a man with his back. I mean, I guess not really the high road. He's just saying like he got him. But next time these teams meet, you got to think like we're going to be in for some shit, bro.
Even when the Clippers and the Nuggets meet, because Marcus, you know, he had some words too, so he's not forgetting
That's
that
true.
his brother took a shot. And I mean, Jokic also, in his own way, took a little version of the high road, because he said he did feel bad because someone showed him the replay and he watched Morris's head kind of snap back on his way down. So I don't think his intention was to hurt him, but I ultimately think this is good for the NBA. Like, Morris shouldn't have, you know, fouled Jokic the way he did, and Jokic retaliated and, you know, knocked him on his ass. Like, that's some good, hard NBA from the straight out of the 90s basketball. Like,
doesn't this season feel most like the early 2000s that we've had in recent years? Like, they took out the offensive fouls and took out the replays of out of bounds at games unless you challenge it, and it's like the smoothest basketball we've seen in so long. Like, we still get these crazy offensive performance, but more night to night basis. We're getting like playing through hard games and some good defensive performances mixed in there too.
And we're seeing teams getting held to like 70 something, 80 something points some nights. Like, you don't need the 135 to 127 every night in this league. Like, it will still happen when teams like the Warriors play. And, you know, we have those high-powered offenses playing against one another. But I think, and I don't think I'm alone on this, you know, defense is a huge part of the game. It's I honestly prefer defense in basketball. I was a defensive-minded player when I played the game. And I think it's good if we take out some of these ticky-tacky fouls, let the guys who excel at defense really show where their skills are at. And yeah, I mean, if that NBA is doing anything good this year, it's definitely kind of transforming the game and making it a little more physical, making it a little more challenging for these stars who tended to live at the free throw line for most of their career.
Are you taking shots there?
Well, I mean, Tatum's one of those guys too. So like,
Tatum evidently can't draw fouls without the 3-point line anymore.
Yeah.
I don't know what the fuck. Well, we can get into that in a little bit. Who do you got? All right. So the Morris brothers, the Jokic's, there's 3 of them. And the 2 brothers, if you haven't seen them, they're jacked. They got full sleeve tats. Like, they're scary looking dudes that could Serbian mob members potentially. Probably some protection, at least something going on there with Jokic.
Like guys that wear t-shirts throughout the winter.
Yes, that's a great description.
A couple of tough dudes.
And you got the Morris twins, who notoriously are like the assholes in the NBA, who evidently they're from South Philly, so they're tough. They've come out from a place, and they have 3 brothers as well. So there's 5 Morrises. Morai, however you would say it, and 3 Jokic's.
The plural.
So, I don't know. I feel like the numbers would just help the Morrises in this. And yeah,
I guess. I guess they would have to put up their, what they could pick out of their other 3 brothers, pick one, and then go up against the 3 Jokic brothers. That'd be tough. I mean, it seems
6-man tag.
Like, the Joker's a big dude, bro. He's much bigger.
You know what that looked like? Brothers. That looked like a kid that like the kid in your friend group that you guys like. You all pick on like a little too much, but because he's okay with it, and then he gets really mad the one day. That's what it looked like, and I feel like that's how Jokic maybe was with his brothers. Like, his brothers were just like in his face all the time. Whatever, he was just whatever, like dealt with it, and then would just like we'll beat the fuck out of you. And he remembered where he was, but I think he would have like jumped on top of him and just started like going to town if it wasn't in the middle of an NBA arena out in the streets of Serbia.
I think it was a combination of that and like the classic hitting somebody, them hitting you back, and the one who retaliates getting in trouble.
Exactly.
Although they both got called for, fouls and Jokic got ejected or whatever, that was just like the classic, like, he got hit, but then Joker looks like the bad guy because he was the one who retaliated and knocked him on the ground, and just the classic, like, recess playground fooling around.
Very true. I like that. So the other game, big game in the last night's late night affair, the Lakers escaped the Charlotte Hornets in overtime. Without LeBron James, though, again, they've looked up and down since they don't have LeBron. They said that they don't know how long he's going to be out at this point. It was supposed to be, they said 1 week with his abdominal injury. Honestly, when Fogel said 1 week, I knew it was going to be longer than 1 week. Like, ab injuries don't heal. If you've ever pulled anything in your abdomen, you know that it does not feel better in a week ever. And who knows how bad LeBron is one of the best athletes we have on this planet. So who knows what it would actually take for him to hurt his abs. But it can be like a 4 to 6 week injury at sometimes too, depending on the severity of it. How are you worried about the Lakers without LeBron from what you've been able to see so far with Russ and AD? Like, can they're right now, they're not in they're in a play-in position or out of the playoffs.
6-5 right now.
And not keeping pace with some of these younger West teams that are clearly ready to make a step. I mean, the Warriors back in contention, Memphis looking really good. So what do you think?
Yeah, I guess my biggest concern is, well, just right off the bat, this is what we talked about at the beginning of the season. It's like if you are going to write off this Lakers team, if there is going to be an issue with them this year, if something's going to hold them away from making it to another NBA championship, it's going to be health. And losing the best player on your team, arguably still the best player in the world, that's going to hurt you. And it makes me more concerned because of how they started the season with LeBron. I mean, it's been up and down even before LeBron was hurt, right? Like, everyone's questioning, is this Westbrook LeBron thing going to work out? And, I was one of the people who was trying to stay calm about it. I said, this is one of the things you kind of just have to let it play out. I mean, these two guys are so great. Let's not overcomplicate it here. Let's let them work out the kinks. Hall of Famers on this team all over the roster is one thing I keep preaching. Like, let that work out. But, if there's problems that weren't resolved before LeBron got injured, which it appeared that way, now LeBron's injured. And like you said, we don't really have a clear timetable on this injury. They're currently in the 8th seed in the Western Conference. It's a little dicey if you're the LA Lakers. I mean, thankfully for them, Carmelo Anthony's playing great, but
Staples Melo.
Yeah.
He's like,
Melo, baby.
He is averaging over, I think, like 27 points a game at home and like 9 points on the road. Like, just keep him in Staples.
I'm pretty sure he's shooting 70% from 3 at home.
He should live at Staples. Like, he should just, something about it is just like
just sleeping back in half court.
Yeah, fuck, dude. Oh my god. Yeah, jeez, man. I don't know. It's scary time because I just think the West is so good, and going from LeBron being your primary ball handler to Russell Westbrook being your ball handler, I think it's just such a drastic change. It feels like it's just looked very disjointed. They've just looked disjointed even with LeBron on the court still. Like missing that like time to like mesh is, I don't know. I don't have as many bets on the Lakers this year, so I don't feel as bad about it, but it's just weird that I definitely don't trust. I'm out on trusting them to win game to game. I think for the whole season. I don't know I haven't seen that gear yet that we should be worried about them, or we should be worried about them. That we should be scared of them as a playoff contender.
And what I'm honestly most upset about is this LeBron injury, is that I'm going to the Celtics-Lakers game on November 19th, and now LeBron's not going to play.
No, but Russell Westbrook, though.
Yeah, and I've never seen Brody play in person, so I'm hyped about that. Thankfully, I've seen LeBron play a couple of times. Super blessed for that. It was actually in his second stint with the Cavs both times. But yeah, so a little bummed about that, but I'm sure Lakers fans and Lakers organization are more bummed because they want the King back on the court. And as you mentioned, these other teams in the Western Conference, a bit surprising. And, you mentioned it, the Memphis Grizzlies, Dallas Mavericks for me at 7-3. I think, the Lakers.
The Mavs are like a weird 7-3, but that's why they give me so much hope, because they look fucked up some of these games and still. Are you just hurting from the Luka shot the other night?
Yeah.
That probably
that was
is
tough.
stuck in your brain still. That was just bad. This is what. All right, let's circle right into that
I
off
was
of
gonna
here
say that's a good segue,
because
honestly.
the biggest question I have for you, we have you're gonna give me a question about my team. We're doing a homer corner here. We talked about it earlier. We've our teams. It's been dramatic seasons for both of them for good and bad reasons. So we felt like we needed to devote some time to talk through this. And I have a question for you first, and then you'll come at me with something for my Cleveland Cavaliers. But my question is, it relates to Ime Udoka and this mix. It doesn't seem like he's hitting on all these cylinders right away. Like he's still trying to figure it out. The East is a little better. Are you worried about this team missing the play-in and potentially being a lottery team going into this season, next season?
I would be lying if I was saying that like it's not like I'm not worried at all about that. But I would also be lying if I sat here and said that I think I strongly agree that may happen. But you're absolutely right, dude. Like lottery team, like they're the 11th seed right now. Jaylen
Does
Brown's
Ime
out
have it? Does Ime have it? He doesn't seem like he has it for the first 10 games.
He doesn't. Like he really doesn't. And I'm so high on Ime, dude. Like, and I really want him to figure this out, and I want to back him until I can't no more. Which obviously, I mean, we're 10 games in. I'm not gonna overreact. The Bucks are the 10 seed, and they have the same record as the Celtics. That's what is allowing me to stay a little calm, right? At ease, I guess. And the Hawks are right behind the Celtics at 4-7, the 12th seed. So, at least it's a weird start to the season where teams that I know are as good and, better, if we're talking about the Milwaukee Bucks, are kind of also struggling. But it does feel a little different when you talk about the Celtics group because, this defensive minded team and coach that was supposed to bring this new feel and look to the Celtics hasn't really panned out. I think Woj and Shams are, trying to do a disservice to the Celtics. I think they're trying to
talk about it. Picture. Come on.
Yeah, I mean, I'm pissed off, dude. About Woj.
That.
I guess Shams is doing his thing, trying to like use clickbait for the Ben Simmons trade. And it came out today
Shams is literally just, Shams is literally the clutch like shill. Like Shams literally is he just listens to Rich Paul. He gets a report from Rich Paul with his instructions on what to say about Ben Simmons at this point. But keep going. Sorry.
No, just the whole Woj thing with the players only meeting and just how much of a buzz that got, and like how he just immediately reported that it was all bad. Players were getting on each other, but they really nothing constructive came from the meeting, this and that. And then after the game, which they won right after the players only meeting, or, I'll put that in air quotes. And then Al Horford and Coach Ime Udoka both said, it was more just a team dinner that they had planned for months. And the coaches just decided to give the players 15 minutes by themselves to hash some things out. And so I don't know. It's tough to see the Celtics struggle like this. It makes it that much tougher when the national media is just trying to paint a picture that I don't think is there yet. I think some of these things that they're trying to get at could happen. This could be a flop of a season, and they could end up playing this poorly throughout. I'm not ready to smash that panic button just yet. Jaylen Brown's banged up. They haven't really figured out, their true identity yet. And Tatum has started slow, and I don't think anyone who actually watches the NBA thinks that he will continue this. Like, he started slow last year, and look what he did to end the season. So yeah, a little fearful of them missing the play-in and becoming a lottery team. Do I think that's actually what's going to happen? No, I think the Bucks and the Celtics, who are the 10 and the 11 seed right now, will start to shoot their way up the standings, and that is what I tell myself so I can sleep at night.
Well, that's good. You should sleep. Sleep's important.
So now is it my time to ask your question about the red hot Cleveland Cavaliers?
Well, I was a very great breakdown of the Celtics troubles, and I'm just very I think Tatum's idol is Kobe Bryant, is he not? And Kobe Bryant had times in his career where he was an incredibly inefficient shooter who just put up a ton of bricks for weeks and months at a time because that's what you do. You shooters shoot, and you're gonna shoot through it. And I think that's what Tatum's doing. It's just if you're a guy that has that kind of skill, everybody has a streak at some point where they're just not. It's not gonna work. Moves aren't gonna work. Things aren't fluid, and it just seems like it's one of those starts for him. But it's only been 10 games. Not even been a month yet into the season. So I'm still hopeful for Tatum. As he was this clearly, even the way Jaylen Brown's been playing, I think Tatum is the dude. Every time we record this podcast, Kent State University calls me for money. It's every Tuesday at 7:00. It just happened last week. It happened 2 weeks ago. I brought it up. It happened last week, and I didn't say anything. One of the weeks I didn't say anything. I was like, I already brought this up, and then I was like, who the fuck's calling? And that's who it was. Yeah, go ahead. I'm ready for your question here. We don't need to go on the Celtics anymore.
Cleveland Cavaliers, the 5 seed in the Eastern Conference, 7-4 right now, on a 4-game win streak, if I'm seeing that correctly. 7-3 in their last 10. Are they a contender? Are the Cleveland Cavaliers with Jared Allen and this new emergence of Ricky Rubio? Is this team a contender, Jake?
Yo, no. All right. So Ricky, the problem with the Ricky Rubio karma is, unfortunately, Colin Sexton is out for who knows how long now with a torn meniscus. And as much as I loved Ricky Rubio going off for 37 in the Garden, that's like best case scenario Ricky Rubio. And that's with Colin Sexton on the floor, a lot less exposure. We're getting the full Ricky Rubio experience with the Cleveland Cavaliers now. Not sure if I'm ready for the full Ricky Rubio experience, but I was very bullish on this team, but they are playing better than I thought that they were going to play. And it's really only one reason that I think that their ceiling is so much higher this year than anybody initially thought. And it's because Evan Mobley is better than anybody could have anticipated and more. Speaking of that win on Sunday night against the Knicks, dude puts up 26 points in his MSG debut, playing the 3. He started at the 3 against the Knicks. He played small forward at 6'11". He's been playing power forward all year, but Markkanen's still out. They put Dean Wade at power forward, put him at the small forward, and he had his best offensive game of his career. The dude's just one of the most versatile basketball players I've ever seen. He reminds me of Anthony Davis, but I don't think Anthony Davis could play the 3 and do it effectively in the NBA. I think he would have trouble out on some of those matchups all the time, and Mobley doesn't have trouble on those matchups. This dude is like he's going to be one of the best defensive players in the league in the next couple years, and his offensive game is actually pretty polished right now, and he still has obviously so much more that he can develop. He's only 19 years old. Mobley is just a stud, and honestly, Garland was underrated going into this year. I think that people like close to the Cavs, and there have been people around the league, players mostly around the league, that were excited about Garland. Like Steph Curry gave Garland that he's like, there's got to think of it, and you can see why. Like, he's very talented in general, but he's kind of taken that step where the basketball IQ is kind of kicking in. He's a great shooter. He's very like nifty passer. He's not like explosive fast, but he's very good at finding the angles. And like he's basically old man basketball. Like Garland is like old man at the rec point guard. That's nasty, but also has like limitless range sometimes. And he's becoming more and more of a consistent shooter. And so between those two, and then I haven't even touched on Jared Allen yet, who was player of the week last week. Jared Allen just kind of living up to what we thought he would do, right? Like we thought Jared Allen at his best just eats boards, is a crazy defender, like a Gobert level defender is what he's playing like right now, and gets putbacks all the time. That being said, the most reason I'm bullish, I mean, not saying that all, because everybody else that I just named is playing very good to start the season. We touched on that note, I think it was last week or 2 weeks ago, about how one team that started the season below 500 has made the NBA Finals. Wow. And so the average record in the last 20, not ever, I should say, like in the last 20 years, one team that started below 500 first 10 games. So
well, don't love that for the Celtics.
No, then I didn't want to bring that up for your stats, make you more upset. But the teams that started, so the average record's like 7-3 to start the year for NBA Finals contestants. So the Cavs started 7-3, Brooklyn started 7-3, Washington started 7-3, Chicago, Miami, Philly. Those are the East teams that all started 7-3 or better. So that just based on NBA history, though, one of those teams will go to the NBA Finals. The fact that the Cavs are in that list, fucking wild. The teams on the West side, Phoenix can become 7-3 with a win. Dallas is 7-3, Utah 7-3. Obviously, Golden State's 9-1. I love that our boy Stevie came right in as I had a graphic up talking about are the Cavs a contender. That's what I want. I want to know what your thought was seeing that. And we're commiserating about our teams. Well, I'm not really commiserating. Dunny was commiserating about the Celtics. I was talking about the Cavs. So go ahead. You got any comments about either of them?
Evan Mobley's the best player in this class. I think we're going to see that for the next.
I thought you were
going to
say in the league. I
won't go that far yet. But he's impressed me. He's done everything I expect him to do and more. I mean, he just looks like that hybrid big that's going to be perfect for this Cavs team. And I'm not going to lie, Micah. I honestly thought that the Cavs were going to struggle a little bit, playing big so often. But Lauri's actually played well in his role to the point that they need him to. And Mobley-Allen combo down low has been lethal on both sides, offensively and defensively. I love this Cavs team. Are they maybe a little too high right now? I think they're, the 5 seed in the East? Possibly. But, I'll be rooting for this team. I want to go to a few Cavs games, too. They're fun to watch. The Cavs are fun to watch again.
Hey, the Cavs have 2 games Saturday and Monday against the Boston Celtics in Cleveland these next 2 weeks. So or this weekend. Yeah, we get 2 back-to-back. We get Celtics Cavs back-to-back, Dunny. That's going to be fun.
Taco Fall is probably going to have like a 30-point game in one of those.
Oh, it was so great to see Taco in there.
I'm wearing a Taco Fall shirt, actually. Let's go.
You guys already know what shirt I got on right here. Some people have hobbies. I watch college basketball.
Can't argue with that. Stevie,
that might be the perfect segue here.
Yeah. Go with your expertise. We had to bring you in. It's opening night of college basketball. And we couldn't think of anybody better to bring on here to give us a little breakdown of the big stories going into the season. We know we get the Champions Classic. You always get the Champions Classic to start the year, and then it's like Thanksgiving is when we'll get some real big, like juicy matchups, all the tournaments and everything. But looking ahead, just the floor is yours. What do you want looking for in the season?
Well, first off, there's 184 games today, which is absolutely crazy that the slate's that big. I mean, I'm loving it. It's the best time of the year. I'll be watching college basketball every night, probably for the next 4 months. College basketball really gets broken down into, I guess, 3 seasons. You have the, what I consider kind of the preseason. It's all the out-of-conference games, the first, 10 dozen games of the year. Then you have the conference schedule where you start to learn really about the teams. And then obviously you have the postseason, the conference tournaments, March Madness. So right now it's kind of hard to pinpoint, who are those, those sleeper teams, those Cinderella teams. But you can really look at, the classes, returning starters, and see which one of these teams are the ones maybe to put in as futures to win, cut down the nets in March to win the championship, or teams that are really, going to be eye-opening. And I got 4 teams. They're all pretty obvious teams, but they're my 4, I guess, potential Final Four teams right now. If I had to pick right now 4 teams to go to the Final Four, these are the 4. We got to start off with Gonzaga. We have to, right? I talked about them all the last year. They came up just short in which, we talked about it. It was Baylor Gonzaga last year. That was kind of the obvious pick, but it was a fantastic championship, fantastic tournament. But Gonzaga is going to be back, and maybe even better than they were last year. They're bringing back Drew Timme. I know they lost Kisper. I know they lost Jalen Suggs, but Drew Timme has potential to be player of the year. He's going to be a monster down low in the paint. And he's not the only big guy they got. They got the number 1 recruit, the 5-star Chet Holmgren. This guy is
Tell me about Chet.
This guy is a 7-footer. You can't really do justice to him until you watch his tape. When I say, oh, he's a 7-footer that can shoot and ball handle, but also is probably the best interior defender, you're like, oh, okay, I guess he's out. You watch his tape, this guy jumps off the tape. He's unbelievable. I love Chet Holmgren. He's basically built like Porzingis with a Mo Bamba type wingspan, but he can ball handle like a point guard, and he's not afraid to shoot. This dude's not afraid of any challenge, and his legs, if you watch it, his legs look skinnier than my arms. His legs look tiny, but this dude is a monster, and I love him. He's probably going to be the best shot blocker in college basketball this year, but he's also going to be good offensively. He can pull up and shoot. He can dribble. When you see a 7-footer coming down the court, it takes him like 4 strides to get the ball from half court into the paint. It's unbelievable. And he's going to make Gonzaga, I think, the favorite once again. But it's not just him. You have Holmgren, Andrew, Timmy on the inside. Good luck scoring on that, and good luck defending it on the other side. But they're also bringing back a super deep class. They got another 5-star in Hunter Salas. They got Andrew Demhart and Anton Watson back. Gonzaga is just going to be like they were last year. They're going to play an 8-9-man rotation of guys that all could start and beat the guy on their own team. They're going to be at a super fast pace, super fun to watch. And I can't wait for Gonzaga. They're playing Dixie State tonight. They're favored by 40. I don't care. I'm laying 40 points. They beat them by 45 last year. I just want to watch Gonzaga. So I'm like, you know what? I'll lay 40. Let me watch this team. Let me see if Chet Holmgren is as good as I think he will be, because I'll tell you what, I love this guy. The other team I got, I'm going with a Big Ten team, but I'm not going with the Big Ten team everyone expects. And the team I hate personally, it's Purdue. I think Purdue is this year's Illinois. I really do. Purdue is returning their top 8 scorers from last year. They're a solidly coached team. They're always a good defensive team, but they have 2 of their best offensive weapons they've had in a long time this year, with Trevion Williams, who's going to play kind of that Kofi Cockburn role for Purdue. Illinois has their guy. This is Purdue's guy. Trevion Williams last year averaged 15 points, 9 rebounds. Big dude, 6'10", just a big body inside the paint. And then they got Jaden Ivey, who is a sophomore guard who started a little slow, but really came into his own at the end of last year, finished around 11 points, I think 3 rebounds, 2 assists. But this is a guy I really think that can put up 25 and 5. Jaden Ivey is someone who I think is going to jump off the page. I think he's the best player in the Big Ten this year, and he's going to carry this Purdue team. That outside of their 2 stars, they're just very balanced, and they're an experienced team. Those are 2 of the big keys for me for Final Four teams. I want experience and I want potential. Purdue's got both of that. Purdue has burned me year after year after year after year after year in the tournament or whenever I bet them. But you know what? We're starting out with a clean, fresh slate this year. I'll hop on Purdue. Okay. I'll give them that credit right now. I think Purdue's a team that can really make some noise. The other team, we saw them last year in full force in the NCAA tournament. It's UCLA. UCLA is a legit team. They kind of, showed us, I guess, a little teaser, right? A little trailer last year in the tournament. What's going to be for this year? I love UCLA. They return all 5 starters, including Johnny Juzang, who just took over the tournament last year, almost knocked out Gonzaga by himself. And then they're adding a 5-star recruit in Peyton Watson, and then Rutgers transfer Miles Johnson just to help with the front court. This team is going to be top to bottom, I think, one of the most talented starting 5s in all of college basketball, and they're pretty deep too. I love these UCLA guards, Juzang, and I believe his name's Jamie Jacques. It's all J's for UCLA. Love them both. They can both shoot. They can score from anywhere, just pure scores on that team. And, the Pac-12 not going to be as great, I think, this year. I think UCLA can really take advantage of it, and I like them. And then the final one, they played earlier today. They were probably my favorite pick of the day. It's Villanova. We talked about last year, guard play is so important to making a deep run in the tournament, and that's why I love the Baylor team, because their guards were just dogs on both sides, defensively and offensively. That is this Villanova team. Guess what? Colin Gillespie and Jermaine Samuels are back and fully healthy, and you got Justin Moore. That's the trio of guards right there, guys. That is the Baylor trio of guards, just in different uniforms
They're
this
gonna
year.
fill it up, bro.
They are going to fill it up. This team's going to score 90, 95 points a game. Their defense is pretty good. Their defense may not be, guard play as on ball great as Baylor was, but overall, just a great scheme. Obviously, a great head coach. And their defense is, it's good enough. I think they'll probably be around a top 20 defensive efficiency, which is all you need when this team, I think, could rival Gonzaga for the best offense in the country. I love all four of these teams right now. And like I said, this is just the early Final Four, my four favorite teams. I know Al has been putting a lot of futures on Alabama. Love Alabama. Love Nate Oates. I think I'm going to wait maybe a month or two, just kind of see, because they do have the potential to go deep. But right now, I wouldn't put them up there yet.
I don't trust the SEC really at all in the tournament once we get there. That's part of the problem.
Yeah, the SEC, it's one of those things where I think a lot of them they're all so close each year, especially this year too. I think LSU, Auburn, Alabama, they're all going to be so close with one another. It's going to be hard to really see them separate. That's why I can't wait for conference play. The first, dozen games is kind of a feel out, right? You get your cupcake schedules where these teams beat up on bad opponents, or you get some good non-conference games like we got Kansas, Michigan State today, just a classic, great game. Duke, Kentucky tonight. I mean, that's ideal for the first night of college hoops. But it's just more of a feel out. The first month is kind of a feel out. You feel out these teams. You see if there's any sleeper teams, any Cinderella possible teams, and go from there. And I mean, guys, I'm just happy that college basketball's back. 184 games today. I don't even know how many I'll be able to watch and switch behind. Right now, I got Southern Illinois and Little Rock on my TV behind this right now. I was watching Villanova while I was at work earlier. I mean, I love this season. I can't wait. I can't wait. I started at Trainwreck in the little end of February last year, so we missed a lot of the college basketball. I kind of just jumped in right for the conference tournaments, maybe a couple weeks right before that. And then we had the March Madness where God bless Oral Roberts and everything they did for me. Now I get to be coined the quote-unquote expert just because of one lucky call, a little dart throw. But can't wait.
Expert. The screen says
Stevie, I got a question for you, and I'm sorry if this catches you off guard, but it's a Big 12 team I want your opinion on, and it's Texas, because I have some personal draw to this team. Former UMass player Trey Mitchell just transferred here this year. It's his first season with Texas. They have guys like Marcus Carr, who's a senior guard for this team, who had an excellent season last year. And, from what I understand, a lot of analysts are pretty high on this Texas team. And you talked about it, experience and talent. They have both. I'm pretty sure they have a few seniors in their starting lineup, if I'm not mistaken. And then a guy like Trey Mitchell, who I, had the privilege of watching in person for many games my senior year at UMass when he was just a freshman and he played like he was a senior. I mean, this kid was battling with Obi Toppin, who we know is crushing it in the NBA right now. And he gave him a run for his money when UMass played Dayton in those games. So, tell me a little bit about Texas.
I mean, I like Texas. I like their roster, but I think the biggest thing for Texas this year is their head coach. They got Chris Beard. Chris Beard is, in my opinion, one of the top 5 coaches in all of college basketball. He's really going to make this Texas team, dominant defensively. That is his go-to. Texas has always been notorious for having the athletes. They've always been able to score, year after year. It's the defensive side, and we saw that last year. Their defense was a lot better. I expect to take another step this year. Texas is one of those teams where they could probably have like that typical 20-10 season, but still be ranked top 10 because of how they look in the eye test or the key wins they get. And they're going to be ready for the tournament. Chris Beard is a guy who prepares his players. He prepares his teams. And that's been the biggest issue with Texas, right? They've showed us so much potential in the regular season, and they fall short in the postseason, fall short. Yep. This could be the year they actually make a run. They've got all the pieces. They got the defensive, they got the interior, they got the head coach, and they got the guard play. I mean, Texas is a team. They weren't in my original Final Four, but they were actually a team, Dunny, I was thinking about when I was going through the list earlier today. Right now, I would say Texas is probably a top 10 most talented roster in college basketball. And when you pair that with, in my opinion, one of the best head coaches, nothing but good things to come.
Love it.
Love that. Do you have any other picks for tonight, Stevie? What do we got? What do you got rocking for the rest of the evening here?
I got a couple
7:20.
bets. So I've had 2 bets finish so far that I gave out earlier this afternoon. We had Villanova, which was one of the easier ones. Just they kind of dominated from the start against a slow Mount St. Mary's team. And then of course, it's college basketball season. You have to have a bad beat. Betham Cookham plus 20.5. They're within 10 the whole game. USF starts to, pull away at the end. And next thing you know, Cookham shooting free throws to get this to 18. They miss their free throws, and USF with 26 seconds left on the shot clock in a 19-point game. They just walk into the paint. They're not playing defense. Put up the layup, and there you go. The plus 20.5 dead after it was covered the whole game. The only time they weren't covering 20.5 was that final basket. But that's what you get when you bet basketball every single night, like I do. So I've learned to just accept those losses. Tonight I got 3 plays for you. I already kind of gave one out with Gonzaga minus 40 just because, like I said, I want to watch this team. They're playing Dixie State, who's been a D1 team for only 2 years now. Gonzaga beat them by 45 last year. Dixie State's not scoring with this team. Gonzaga's going to be just as fun as they were last year. But then I got a couple underdogs. I've been playing with the dogs a lot for football the past couple of weeks, so why not get a few of them in basketball? First one is UMBC plus 10 today against UMass. Sorry, Donnie. But the thing here is I think UMBC is probably the best team in the America East. I really think they could actually get to the tournament this season, and they have a lot of transfers to come in with returning starters. And UMass, they may be a little bit better down the line because they do have a lot of transfers coming in, but they lost both their top 2 scorers and their top 2 rebounders this year. When that happens, It usually is a little rusty. It takes a little bit to get adjusted. I think this game should be a lot closer than 10 points. I actually think these teams are pretty even. I would almost give UMBC the slight edge just because I think they have the potential to win the America East, get to the tournament this year. I like them plus 10. And then another dog, Texas Arlington plus 18 against Oklahoma State. Oklahoma State's going to be a good team this year. Let's not overreact to Cade getting drafted because they will be a good team. They have a lot of returning players. Got Avery Anderson returning, their top scorer besides Cade last year. But when you lose a guy like Cade Cunningham, who had as much usage as he did last year, you're going to be a little rusty to start. And I really think Oklahoma State is going to have to find their identity. Their identity is probably going to be rebounds and defense this year. That's probably what they're going to have to be. But UTA is a solid school. They didn't lose any game by more than 16 last year. They played Oklahoma State last year. They lost by 7. I think UTA's got a pretty solid team. They have no key losses, and they return their best player, David Azori, who averaged around 14 points, 5 rebounds last year. I like UTA to keep it, competitive. They're getting 18 points right now. I think it's more like a 10-point game. And Oklahoma State, I'm not writing them off. I'm not the guy who's overreacted because Cade left, because Oklahoma State's actually, I think, going to be a good team once we get to conference play. But this is their first game without the guy who carried them last season. I think they'll be a little rusty or just not have a identity on offense. So I'll take the points with UTA, hoping, maybe they get a really close first half. Oklahoma State probably pulls a win in the second half, wins by 12 points. 18 is just too many points for me to pass up. And as always, guys, I'll be posting picks all day, probably every day for college basketball. I mean, we go time slot by time slot. There's too many games to just look through 184 and say, hey,
that's true.
These are all of mine. We're going to go time slot by time slot, some picks here, some picks there. But those are 3 right now I'm looking at. I think they start at 8, and then the Gonzaga game's at 9. So I'm excited. I just can't wait to watch these teams.
I'm getting them in right when we get off of here. Tailing Stevie. It can't be worse than I've done the last weekend and those college football picks that you were just talking about. So,
dude,
it'll be good. It was a rough go.
College football was tough. I think the first 3-4 weeks I was crushing college football. I was like, oh, I figured college football out, and they have figured me out these past couple weeks to the point where I'm like, do I even want to bet college football this Saturday? But good thing is basketball's back, so I can focus on that Saturday. I already looked ahead to the Saturday slate. It's another giant one. Of course it's going to be. The fall, guys, it's the best season for sports. It's the best season for degenerates. It's just the best season all around. Got football, basketball.
Takes there.
Oh, it is. I will fight anyone. For a sports fan. For a sports fan, it is the best season.
I agree.
People are going to be like, "Oh, summer's the best." It's like, all right, well, are you a diehard sports fan? You don't have football. You don't have basketball. You don't have hockey. So don't try to tell me summer's the best. Maybe the best weather. It's not the best overall season. Plus, you got Halloween, Thanksgiving. You got everything. You got everything in the fall.
Oh no. Did we lose him?
Absolutely. And
are you back?
Yeah, I'm back.
There we go. You angered the internet.
Yeah, so Stevie, you can have a sec to, you kind of touched on it. You put out pics every day on your personal Twitter. Some guy named Steve is where you can find him. He's also a member of the Degenerate Danger Zone, giving out pics there all the time as well. And this is going to be the first of many that we have some guy named Steve on Happy Hour Hoops to talk college hoops this season. Like you mentioned, huge slate of games tonight, and it is just the beginning. We have a lot more to come. So thank you. Thanks for coming on, Stevie. It was a pleasure, and I may have to tail those picks, but I may have to fade the UMass one because I don't know how I feel about that.
Hey, I mean, that's fair.
It's not a cover.
Maybe sprinkle a little on the money line, but yeah, as always, thank you for having me. I love coming on Happy Hour Hoops. I can't wait this year, maybe talk some college basketball, get some recaps, because we're going to have some crazy upsets. We're going to have some crazy news. There's going to be teams that come out of nowhere like there is every year that I'm like, couldn't even name a player on their roster. And next thing you know, that team's top 10 in the country. So I can't wait. The best part about college basketball is once you think you know it, you don't. There's just too many teams, too many players to keep track of. And that's my favorite part. I love seeing these stars emerge. I love seeing guys, build, their draft resume. I can't wait. It's going to be a great season.
Yo, we're going to have to me and you are going to make a bet at some point too I'm going to make it with everybody affiliated with the University at Buffalo, because my boys in Kent State are finishing ahead of UB in both regular season standings and in the MAC tournament. Yeah, it's happening. Mr. Ohio. I'm just telling you, Von Cameron, just watch.
I don't know what the exact odds are right now, but if you just want free money, Buffalo to win the MAC. Josh Mabala is a beast. That's all you need to know. I won't steal all the thunder from bullet points. I'll let them handle all that, but Buffalo's winning the MAC.
I'm telling you, when Von Cameron Davis has 35, Mr. Ohio up against UB this year, you'll remember this.
Yeah,
okay. We're thinking of something. I'm trying to think of something. I'm not in any position to talk about bets, as I've barely escaped our fantasy football league winning of the 0-8 bowl. I feel like that's deserving of this podcast, made it out there. So if I make another bet, I got to be sure of it. And
and you don't want me to bring up the current fantasy basketball standings either, do you?
No, I don't.
I don't think either of you guys want me to bring those up.
Go look at my IR with 5 guys on it since the beginning of the year. It's been tough to go at it to start. I've been upset. Yeah, if I lose in fantasy basketball to you two, I don't know, man.
We'll see. It's going to be I'm in a lot of fantasy football leagues right now. We got the fantasy basketball going in. Right now in fantasy football, it's just looking like the train wreck league. Ty B's looking pretty good. His team's looking pretty good. I love my team, love my roster, but his team terrifies me. And I was able to get him in basketball, but he beat me in football leagues a couple weeks ago, talking all the crap. And we'll see in the playoffs. That might be a little bold prediction.
That's all you guys see.
Ty B gets knocked out in the playoffs. What?
Clip that. Clip that.
Yep, we're gonna send it to him right after this. Oh my god, I'm glad that you love it, that you love your team, because I hate my team so much.
Wow.
It's
You should when you're 0-8.
It's been a
You
hate
should.
watch. It's been a hate watch all year. Yes, but now I hate. Now like I watch these players like not perform on Sunday. I get like irrationally mad. But the problem is I have them all. I'm not good at fantasy football at all this year because I picked like all the same guys for like 4 teams, and so they're all just doing bad. And it's stuck in a cycle that way. But.
Yeah, that's the thing about fantasy football. Like one bad year, and it'll just ruin players for you. Like I bet you hate Calvin Ridley now.
I can't stand Calvin Ridley. Javonte Williams, can't stand him right now. Yeah, just some of these guys. All right, well, let's wrap it up here. Stevie, thank you for joining. Thank you for your expertise as always, and for Donovan Holden. This is Jake Micah. Follow us at Happy Hour Hoops 1 on all social platforms. Subscribe to the podcast, Apple and Spotify. Have a great night, folks. Enjoy the game. Enjoy the week.